It's the Jim Fannin Show. We've come to take your mind.
Am I still on? Doing Shandor Ligapalpi's in the house. We're gonna hit communism, control, and censorship. Buckle up, welcome aboard. Fall into a groove with the open. Try to hit it the same every week and kill the music before the next song comes on, which is Want Some by M Factor, and it's actually a pretty good tune. Shandor, thanks for taking the time, and no thanks to you on Mute Your Mic for dragging me back into Niagara politics. Thank you for the Laura Yip tweets that I have to and do her first thing in the morning.
All you have to do is unfollow.
You? No.
You just unfollow WTF and then you're free.
No. No.
Well, TGIF, thank God I'm free. How are you doing?
It's all good, man. Another good week. Been banging, finally getting a groove down here. It's been a long haul, man. It's going to be a year soon, and yeah, it's finally getting in the groove. Got a little bit rolling, so it's good.
Jim Fannin, the exiled patriot.
I haven't done a show. I did the Andy Lee show yesterday, but I hadn't done a show since you and me and Pat Dixon and Rob Primo and Josh Bigger all did that show.
Right.
Yeah, that was my last show, other than Andy Lee last night, who was tremendous.
Well, we've been given a new body of content to examine,
exactly.
Thanks to some of the local shenanigans in St. Catharines.
Yeah, my first link I stopped sharing because I can't hit the tabs as easily that Zoom part of the thing pulls up. So, but anyways, the links are in the show description. You see the title. We're broadcasting everywhere live. We're on the Jim Fannin Show page on Facebook, the personal profile on Facebook. And then at Jim Fannin Live. At Jim Fannin Live, there's two. At Jim Fannin Lives is my Twitter handle. And at Jim Fannin Live, it's just for live streams, basically. Because I can't seem to live stream off my main account, which is my third account. It was my old Rock Our Town account that I just kind of morphed into, whatever.
And I'm on WTF Niagara and Niagara Based. Visit me at niagarabased.com.
Niagara Based. I was trying to figure out what that was in the tweet. I got the tweet out, and you can find it there. Well, I think I've got a new channel on YouTube, too, called The Jim Fannin Show. It's got probably one sub. And then TrueTube's always active, but that'll never be monetized. And then we're on Twitch and DLive as well. So we got all the platforms covered, and welcome aboard. So the first thing we're going to look at, just tell you introduced the show. You've done the homework. You've done the receipts. So if you could summarize and start at the beginning, just let it roll, man.
The start of this week's story is a man named Saleh Waziruddin, whom I believe you have some background with because you both ran in some municipal elections and in provincial. You ran as none of the above in 2018. Is that correct?
I did, yes, for Greg Vesna's party.
And Saleh ran as communist. And you got 7 times the number of votes. None of the above.
None
got
of the
7
above.
times,
a brand new party.
7 times the communist. I think it's important to start there because, well, where is Saleh now? But he is the chair of the St. Catharines Anti-Racism Committee. And so we're talking about The last place finisher of the elections, now using the position of committee to make moral demands upon everyone, and it comes in the form of defaming Jeff Dunham, and which is a comedian, a ventriloquist comedian, and attempting explicitly to get him canceled, not just in St. Catharines but beyond. So defamation of interference of Jeff Dunham's business, and the city of St. Catharines is harboring the communist in the anti-racism committee, and we're going to take a look at the receipts, and there are plenty of receipts. And in my opinion, I think that the communist has the right to their opinion, but it's grossly inappropriate for a municipal committee to harbor these defamatory statements. And I think it opens the city up to liabilities. If Jeff Dunham and his lawyers hear what Saleh, Carrie, and Greg happened to say, they might take exception to it. They're smearing the man's name as a racist, homophobe, Islamophobe, and they put it in context. A lot of people have never heard of the dude, so they're talking to people who've never heard of the guy and describing what the guy is like, and therefore they're creating their own atmosphere of racism. Hey guys, racism's coming to town. Oh no, we couldn't stop it. So they have all the people they just lied to under the impression that racism's coming to town and they couldn't stop it. It's a sham, Jim. And I'm talking to you about it, Jim, because I think you're very much opposed to the cancel culture, and I think you're very much in favor of free speech and comedy.
Well, I recommend it. I recommend being canceled. It's great for your career. Good. It usually leads to more subs. I've been canceled many times. I wholeheartedly would recommend.
No, Jim.
Try it out.
No, you're being facetious, but you're also. The man has 4,000 tickets they tried to take away from him.
Fuck. You spelled St. Catharines wrong, and I cut and pasted it, man.
$80 a ticket times 4,000, whatever Jeff Dunham's cut would be from him being a show. They tried to take that money out of his pocket by defaming him. You understand? So it's. This is high level cancel culture. This is going after the man's career. And I don't know. I mean, it's probably good for him. He's probably sold another 1,000 tickets as a result. So if that's what you mean.
Yeah. It always leads to more subs and more money in the end.
The Streisand effect.
Yeah.
Frankly, I wouldn't have looked at Jeff Dunham's comedic sets, which we will take a look at some of Jeff Dunham's work in our stack of links. I wouldn't have even really known about him, thought about him, or done if it wasn't for a communist trying to cancel him.
Silence! I kill you.
Right. Yeah, that's the catchphrase.
That is part of my lexicon. Is that the right way to put it? That's part of my vocabulary. That comes up a lot, especially with the kids.
Right. Well, you're going to see the clips. I don't want to spoil the end of the. But
I want to get your thoughts on this though. What about the platforming of this? So talk to me about the local media's platforming of this guy, and why are they giving him so much pub? Like, I mean,
that's exactly it.
610 is not what the 610 even.
My Niagara-based story, which I published this week. The story is that the darling communist of the media wants to cancel a comedy show. And I call them the darling communist because every time something happens, the media, which means the local radio, CKTB 610, and the local newspaper, the Standard, will willingly seek him out, quote him, and let a communist tell the entire city that they're bad for something that happened. For example, during the Harriet Tubman vandalisms that took place last month, which was the last time we had a clip show together. We went through that. We were focused on Carrie Porter's statements, but the anti-racism advisory, let me say this correctly. The Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association, which is like something made up, an unofficial body, is which is Saleh Waziruddin is an executive of, I think the only executive. I think it's just the equivalent of Niagara Base for him. It's a website, and he gets quoted because he claims to be the Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association. And essentially, in my view, the media uses that to launder, to wash, to scrub the fact that the man is a communist, a far left communist. And I don't mean that as a pejorative. I mean that as a descriptor. And in his own words, and we will see this in some of the work, doesn't believe in free speech and speaks against it and says, I'm a communist, not a liberal, so I don't defend your rights.
Yeah.
And that's what he says out loud, explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not me just saying like, oh, I don't like your belief system, I'm going to label you with communist and then dismiss you. No, he's actively interfering in the rights of the public. And that is not an appropriate position for a municipal committee. So let's look at the link. Let's start with link number 1, the news from NiagaraBase.com.
Okay.
Which was the deep dive on what we just discussed. You can see the screenshots supporting the statements of the headlines from the newspaper and from the radio. And then we'll also get into some of the clips. We've got clips, folks. I know that's what you're tuning in for.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm on NiagaraBase.com. I'm just going to blow this up a little bit. Local media's darling communist now wants to cancel comedy show. Correct? Is that the link?
It's the link 1 on the Twitter link. Load up the thread. Let's see the thread, because the thread, I've become a thread master.
I didn't realize it was all threads. I thought you were sending me links of whatever we wanted. So now that I see that there's threads in all these, they look like the same tweet, but it's not. So yeah, I'm on the first one, Niagara Based, and I'm on your website. So we're doing podcast style tonight. Shandor had a technical issue, so he's coming in by his phone, and he doesn't have a computer. So you don't see the normal TV show that you normally get because you just don't want to look at me. I'll show you my face later, okay? On my other channel, OnlyFans, the Jim Fannin Show. All right,
Only
so
fans.
I'm on, okay, so the article's there. Let me zoom it in here.
I don't know what you're seeing. Are you not doing a screen share with me? I thought we were doing a screen share.
I can, but then the link buttons get screwed up here. Let's go here. Sure. I don't think you can see it large, though. Okay. Anyways, it's Niagara-based. Let me see. Article on your website, and now it's big, so everyone can read it. So we're at the top. Local media is darling communism now wants to cancel show, and there are.
There we go. Now I can see it. Mm-hmm. That's right. So that's the Niagara-based story. You can see the receipts, which just demonstrate the claim that the media happily platforms Mr. Wazirudin to make various moral claims. And I think that's an important reference. The important factor is the lack of context that the media gives it. So they just present it as, here's an anti-racism guy, and he's brown, but he's also a far left communist, and they don't ever include that context. And I think it's important context. If they were going to quote anyone on the right, they would include all sorts of context. Like when we did a protest in May, I did a protest in May. Jim, what's his name? LaFleche insisted on contextualizing the protest by referencing what the previous protesters said. Well, they're not contextualizing the communists, and I think that's an important point. But the story is less interesting than the threads, which have the videos. So we want to stick to the threads.
I got you.
Yeah.
So we've seen the receipts. So here's the first thread, I think, right?
Yeah, scrolling. There we go. Let's listen.
Okay.
I'm sure you can find people of all races who would like racist jokes, but that doesn't mean that represents everybody, and it's dangerous because the most important thing to understand about these kind of jokes that take race or gender or sexual orientation, gender expression as the butt of jokes and mockery is that it escalates. It creates an environment where people think it's okay to escalate to hate crimes and to violence, and it's not a safe space. And if you don't mind me telling more about that, because we saw that right here this summer with the vandalism of the Harriet Tubman Public School and several places nearby where there was brazen graffiti, it was racist and homophobic, and the police in Niagara have come out with reports showing that the spikes in hate crimes in the region and St. Catharines. And just as the last point on that, Statistics Canada came out with a report a few weeks ago saying that over the last 2 years, there's been across Canada a 72% increase in hate crimes, police-reported hate crimes. So this led the executive director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation to say it's a fire hose of hate, it's a wildfire, and that it's going to be normalized because we're not doing anything about it. So as the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee, we're saying we have to do something about this. We can't just say we're a compassionate city against racism, but lie down and do nothing when this comes to town.
Wow. Was that Steph Vivier?
Steph Vivier was the host of that interview.
Wow.
And there are some clips from, she makes some comments. She actually explicitly applauds the Anti-Racism Committee. So you can actually listen to her applaud. So, but let's first talk about what we just heard. So what did you hear, Jim? And I want to get your first take.
Well, my first take is that there are no hate crimes. And the only reason you see hate crimes skyrocketing because we're the most tolerant we've ever been. Yes,
right.
There's racism. There is racism. There's black on Mexican racism right now in the States. It's nasty. Like, you can't believe it. There's black on Asian violence like crazy. Black on Jew. Black on white. There's racism in pockets, but it's not traditionally the way you would think about it. We have guys in white hats going around saying the white race is best. So yeah, hate crimes are up because hate crimes are not a thing. They've made the crime. It's a crime is a crime. There's no hate crime. I hate how they say hate crime. They've made this whole hate crime and hate speech a thing. It's not a thing. If it's not against the law, it's not a crime. It's not a crime to say how many genders you believe there are. It's not a crime to make fun of people in a comedy skit. It's not a crime. It's not a hate crime. It's not racism. It's comedy. I practice it myself. So to me, I'm a free speech absolutist. You can say whatever we want, whatever you want, and then society will judge you. Period.
So can you say fire in a crowded theater?
Yes, you can.
But what you can provoke a panic?
Sure. You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
There should be some. No, I'm an absolutist.
Is it a social
I'm not
boundary?
saying that you can't be held criminally responsible for inciting something that leads to death. No, I think there's a provision for that under law already.
That's hate speech,
if you yell fire in a theater and people get trampled, you are responsible for manslaughter in some respect. You don't have to make shouting fire in a crowded theater a crime. It's ridiculous what's going on these days.
Maybe one way or the other.
There's laws on the books for everything that you do that causes death and harm. Without
discarding the existence of hate crimes, without discarding the notion of hate crimes, what we see here is that Saleh is making a major leap of logic between a comedy show and the Harriet Tubman vandalism. The Harriet Tubman vandalism was antisocial. If they can call it a hate crime. It's an antisocial action by teenagers. But Saleh here makes a direct correlation between the existence of mockery and comedy and the lashing out of vandalism and violence. And I think that is the same absurd leap of logic that he makes in subsequent comments. And that is a leap of logic we need to, as a society, to reject. And that's why you're a free speech absolutist, because that leap of logic doesn't exist. They're just words. They're not leading to the kind of things that are being claimed by Mr. Waziruddin.
I agree. So, there's got to be existing laws on the books for a maniac that orders a hit publicly on someone, but how often do we see that?
Sure.
Because there are laws against that. So anyway, so that's the first thing that occurs for me. Yeah, the way you draw these conclusions and make leaps is fantasy. And the other thing is it's all, you can take this. We get more tolerant every day. We get more understanding and more tolerant every day. But these guys have taken it so far that you can't even make jokes anymore now. Like, this is the same thing with Gavin McInnes, okay? So Gavin McInnes did a bit in Israel called 10 Things I Hate About the Motherfucking Jews. And he gave it to like a whole group of businessmen, Israeli businessmen.
Right.
They loved
and
it.
Then
and the video never broke of it. And everyone uses this. Nobody ever, like Ezra's got the copy. It's never been seen by anyone. But everyone goes to this about he made this racist thing. No, he did a comedy bit for a bunch of Jewish businessmen. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like.
Right. So they decontextualized the actual context, and then they put it in front of the public as if it's something that it's not.
Exactly.
And CKTB, Bell Media, CKTB, scroll down, you'll see, keep going. Mm-hmm. Here's Steph Vivier, I don't know. Here's what she had to say.
Stuff. I can't say that I've thought about him in many, many years, but when I read this story, I thought, yeah, this is exactly terrible, and it's because I'm not in a marginalized group that I don't necessarily think of it. So I think.
Wait. No, you are in a marginalized group. You're a woman.
The work that you with the anti-racism committee is doing is very important, and this is I don't know. I just want to applaud you for bringing it forward.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that
stuff. I can't say that I've thought about him in many.
That's not an unbiased host. That host didn't go and seek out a contrary opinion. That host applauded cancel culture. That Bell Media host is participating in the defamation of Jeff Dunham to interfere in the man's career, to take at least 4,000 tickets away in St. Catharines, and then whatever the impact of damaging his reputation beyond. And that is inappropriate. There's more. There's another clip. Scroll. There's more.
Maybe you could.
So this is just more stuff.
Maybe you could mute your mic when the clips are running, just in case some dude goes burning down the street.
Yeah, I'll try that.
They look at the puppets, and there's sort of a childlike, I mentioned off the top that he's a pretty well-known comic. There's so many comics, and he would be one of the ones that's known. And I think it's because of these puppets, right? Like people, they look at the puppets, and there's sort of a childlike, it's a toy, right? It makes it seem a little bit softer, and it almost seems like, there's a hiding behind it, because the jokes that he's saying, I don't think in 2022 a comedian would be saying those jokes or.
Wow. That is telling right there. Saying those jokes, or should be saying those jokes.
Saying those jokes. And it's almost like he's hiding behind, this piece of fabric, like, well, it wasn't me, it was him.
You're exactly right. I mean, the puppet's the device that's letting him say things that nobody would be, it wouldn't be accepted to say it just outright. And it shouldn't
ridiculous.
Be accepted through a puppet either.
It's not. It's ridiculous. This is wow. I'm sorry we jumped into this now.
Well, we'll be able. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm good.
You're good.
You'll be able to see some of the rebuttals to this, and we're going to get a really salient response from, of all sources, Walter Sendzik. So I think that we'll find that in the next clip, in the next thread stack. So that's the end of the introduction of the story, where we get CKTV on Friday, the weekend prior to the Monday vote in council. So at City Council on Monday evening, this issue came forward as a motion, and the motion was brought forward by Greg Miller. Greg Miller brought forward the motion from the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee, claiming that this is their racialized lived experience to regard Jeff Dunham as cancelable. And I think we're going to have to take a little bit of time to go through this. There's about 6 or 7 minutes of clips in this thread, and the first one's about 2 minutes, and we'll get a sense of his presentation, and then we'll get a sense of some of the responses. And I think we'll be able to then visit Walter Senzik's comments, and then we'll be able to sort of summarize what we've learned.
We've seen right here the brazenness with which the hate crime, vandalism at the Harriet Tubman Public School and nearby places happened without any hint of shame. You councillors and other elected officials in Niagara have experienced this brazenness directly, no fear of getting caught. We've seen the open brazenness with a recorded video of Deputy PM Christopher Freeland being harassed. They get this daring from the normalization of hate, from making a mockery and the butt of jokes of racialized people, women, and to us LGBTQIA plus people. So there's no surprise about what's coming to town. Jeff Dunham's agent has already publicized that characters already condemned by industry associations and civil rights groups like the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation as racist will be in the act. St. Catharines has an opportunity here to lead the way, to bring the other cities in on this and to stop this harmful performance from not just coming to St. Catharines, but also beyond. From my experience, unfortunately, there are some who are more concerned about not offending the racists or those who think racism is funny than they are about the damage racism, misogyny, and homophobia causes to our communities. If Jay Leno can recognize comedy needs to change, if SUNY Plattsburgh can cancel a major comedian for transphobia, then we in St. Catharines can do the same. Thank you.
Well, are you tonight, sir, representing that committee as the chair, or are you speaking as a resident?
I am speaking as the chair of the city's Anti-Racism Advisory Committee. Sorry, I thought I had clarified at the beginning. If I didn't, I apologize.
Oh, forgive me, I must have missed that. So, do you have, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter, so do you have the permission of the committee and all of the members?
Through your worship, yes, I do.
Thank you. No further questions.
Councillor Miller?
Dude, that's insane.
So I guess you missed some of Saleh's comments there. So I'm not sure what to say about it. Let's continue to the next clip.
What do you mean I missed? What did I miss?
You missed a minute. I saw you. You missed a minute and a half of what he said.
Yeah, I had to go to the door, dude.
That's all right. That's all right. I don't know what to say about it.
Oh,
you
there's
missed
nothing
it.
to say?
Well,
You
there's
have no
stuff to say,
thoughts
but
on
you
it.
missed
Okay,
it.
well, give me your thoughts. I
Play
heard
it
enough
again.
of it. I'll play it again. It's 2 minutes long, dude.
Wow,
We've seen
what am I
right
supposed
here
to-
the brazenness with which the hate crime, vandalism at the Harriet.
Dude, it's your show. Give me your thoughts on it.
Well, it's my thoughts are it speaks for itself, and we might as well continue to the next clip to really dig into the topic more.
Okay.
A further question, and I appreciate the comment to the presenter. As a further question, though, we're talking about the artistic creation of characters, and there are books that are centered around characters. So Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie is someone that has been targeted because he created a fictional character. So there's groups that would have liked that book to remove. Do we remove that book from our library?
Your Worship, I can't speculate on a hypothetical. I don't know that.
Not a
that
hypothetical.
Book isn't. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not a hypothetical. That is offensive to certain groups. Do we remove that book?
I don't know if that book is in the library, but I don't think that's the same as a comedy act or act that's being billed as a comedy act.
So just demonstrating how difficult it is to put a defined line on the creation of characters, and how do we as council address that? So I'm not debating with you. I'm just showing you how it impacts the potential overarching policy of what we look at within the entire corporation. So I do appreciate the dialogue.
Right. You definitely get a pretty good pushback from Mayor Walter Senzik.
The committee has done some really good work, without a doubt, for the social sustainability committee. I'm not denying that, but my point is if this gets canceled, there's going to be, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 people, however many seats have been sold. We're going to be very upset because the Anti-Racism Committee has brought this forward, and it's going to cast a negative effect on the good work that you've done so far.
Walter's on his phone.
Is that not a concern at all?
Through your worship, I think that this is exactly a point of that there's people who don't want to offend or upset the thousands of people who do want to watch a racist performance. But I think the damage caused by racist performance is greater, and that we shouldn't. Unfortunately, there's a long history of not wanting to upset people who either are racist or who think it's funny. I think racism is funny. But I think that the damage that's caused by this kind of performance is much greater, and that's what we should be focusing on, and not on the people who bought the tickets.
It's pretty absurd, isn't it, Jim?
You know, it's funny. Saleh's funny.
Saleh is pretty funny, but not in that intentional way. Not in that intentional way. But think about this. Let's dig into that $4,000 to $5,000 ticket sales. Or 4,000 or 5,000 ticket sales. Those aren't just $80 per ticket for the Meridian Center and then split up among the partners who produce that. But it's also restaurants, cafes, parking, 4,000 or 5,000.
And your anti-racism committee has done.
4,000 or 5,000 people have to come to St. Catharines downtown park and participate in downtown. So it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for the city. And the notion that a few people are too offended. No. The notion that someone's going to get beat up or vandalized. Like what is the actual problem? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars this committee is trying to take out of the city's economy, all for a virtue signal.
What else we got here?
So if somebody was in the public library,
here, don't worry about this
and they were making.
We don't need to play this clip. I'll just explain it briefly. So the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee relied on St. Catharines' R-Zone policy, and the R-Zone policy is respect in recreational spaces. So like at sports games, there's no racial epithets or calling anyone any bad names. And that policy was claimed to apply to this performance, but the staff disagreed that the policy doesn't apply. And so that's just a technical note, and we can continue to the next point. I think that's almost the end of the thread. You look like
to bring the other cities in on this and to stop this harmful performance from not just coming to St. Catharines, but also beyond.
Yeah, that.
Unfortunately, this kind of
just
performance.
Pause for a second, Jim. So what you heard there, he just said it, to stop it not just in St. Catharines, but beyond, to actually lead the way in becoming a cancel culture municipality for other municipalities to take up on that virtue signal. And that's what makes this more important than just a St. Catharines story. Now play out the full clip, and I think this is the final clip, isn't it? This is the one with the mashup. Because I hesitate to call it comedy. Does cause damage that affects us all.
People in our community consider harmful and hateful. I don't think it's a stretch to see why. With Jeff Dunham's show specifically, with characters that some of the most Islamophobic and homophobic things I've seen and heard on a comedy stage, things that were hateful and out of place 20 years ago, and certainly are now as well. So
and Jeff Dunham is, he's built his career on racist, anti-Semitic tropes. I have no trouble saying that because just a simple Google search will return racist, anti-Semitic tropes. I have no trouble saying that because just a simple Google search will return. So I have no trouble.
Sorry about that technical difficulty.
Yeah. So this is just a compilation clip of some of the comments that were made. We'll finish it up.
All kinds of things, and it's easy.
Canceling it, the answer is going to be no. Like, I think we can ask, and people say, well, you should ask anyway. But I think at this point, like the concert of sock puppets, like I don't even know what this guy is. I think everybody, what I'm hearing though, like about this guy is not good, and it's not a show. Obviously, this is probably why I have no idea who this guy is, because this is not something that I would want to watch.
Oh, you see how the defamation works? Oh, I don't even know who this guy is, but from what I'm hearing, this isn't something I would be interested in. That is reputation destruction, defamation. Lori Littleton called it sock puppets. Sock puppets. These are not sock puppets. They're ventriloquist puppets. So the fact that she's speaking in such ignorance on the topic, I think it's a very revealing point. And so we'll scroll to the last video in the thread, and then this is where we finally put things into context. And you know what? I'll tell you what, Jim. I didn't actually know much about Jeff Dunham because it's 2022 and I haven't seen a Jeff Dunham show in 15 years. I've seen it and it was like, okay, just one of the acts, just for laughs, commercial, here's an act, commercial, here's an act, like no big deal. But it was a slightly amusing, and it was the post 9/11 world. And so his signature act, Ahmed the Dead Terrorist, is, I'll remind you, not a Muslim. He's a fucking dead terrorist. So he's not offending Muslims. He's offending terrorists. Making fun of terrorists.
The fact that people are assuming the dead terrorist is
No, I mean, he has a
he identifies as a dead terrorist.
Let's not denial the character's context.
Yeah,
the character, he is inspired by Muslim suicide bombers. That is true. And they should be mocked and ridiculed. Hey, don't blow yourself up in a crowd.
Yeah.
Fuck you. We're going to make a joke out of what you decided to do. And that's what the Ahmed the Dead Terrorist is. It's a fuck you to suicide bombers, not to Muslims. And guess what? You're going to see in this clip, this is the best part. So I start digging through Jeff Dunham clips, and I start discovering his world tour. Okay. So let's play the clip.
All right.
Is this the last one in the thread?
What they're asking for us to do is pretty basic here, is to ask the Meridian Center to consider canceling a show that racialized people in our community consider harmful and hateful. I don't think it's a stretch to see why, with Jeff Dunham's show specifically, with characters that some of the most Islamophobic and homophobic things I've seen.
Greetings, folks. Silence! I kill you.
I don't know. Can I use this? Fuck. I'm gonna get a strike from MGM Grand or some shit.
Silence! I kill you!
Jeff Dunham is, he's built his career on racist, anti-Semitic tropes. I have no trouble saying that because just a simple Google search will return all kinds of things.
So, Ahmed, we've been going all over the place. You know where we are? Well, we are going so many places I have lost track. And what's with all the Jews? We're in Israel. That's so funny. Yeah, okay, Israel. Yeah, that's really funny. What?
Yeah, let's pause there for a second.
We're in...
Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation does normalize mockery and making the butt of jokes of racial...
Jim?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. So we're about 35-40 minutes into this conversation, and we've been talking about how Jeff Dunham's such a racist. He's so racist that he can't come to St. Catharines. He's been to Abu Dhabi and Tel Aviv with his jokes. And yet Milquetoast St. Catharines is too offended. And I think it really puts it into context.
Wow.
That is a crowd of Muslims applauding, I kill you, because they don't like suicide bombers. Muslims don't like suicide bombers either. You fucking idiots. Let's hear what Saleh says. This one puts it in real context here.
Plus people, women, and LGBTQ2SI plus people.
We can do it after. I'll say it now. Yeah. So look at this guy on the left. So the whole accusation is that Jeff Dunham uses racial stereotypes. Well, who's this dude on the left? Let's take a listen.
But Jay, don't you worry about your health? Huh? Your health? Oh, like what? Your liver? Oh, no. My last deduction is the aliens took it. You think you got abducted by aliens? I don't think, I know. They took me and they stuck something in my butt. And not in the good way.
Really, like I was literally shocked.
I love you guys. Good night.
Oh man, the context.
I don't know. I feel like that's really putting into context.
Man, that joke was in Abu Dhabi.
That applause line at the end,
you
that's
didn't
Abu
mix
Dhabi.
that. Okay, that's good.
So that's frigging whatever 5,000 people in Abu Dhabi applauding Jeff Dunham, while the St. Catharines Anti-Racism Advisory Committee says, "Nah, we don't like this man's reputation. We don't feel he reflects well on the city." And I feel like we've just completely schooled the entire situation. The way it turned out is that only Porter and Miller voted in. Only Porter and Miller voted in favor of the motion to recommend canceling Jeff Dunham, but all of council voted in favor of a new policy for directing staff to come up with a guideline policy, which nobody knows how are they going to come up with a guideline policy. I guess it means don't reinvite Jeff Dunham. Like, what policy can we actually have here? But the day after council, Walter Sendzik was invited on CKTB and made what I thought was a useful, scroll down to the first clip, scroll down to the clip that this is retweeting. Yeah, we want that one first, please. I found it to be quite interesting that Sendzik made a very useful defense of artistic license and freedom of speech.
On a much more basic note, is it a discussion about whether it's the job of a city council to regulate what goes on at its performing arts center? Regardless. I mean, is that one of the basic discussions we're having?
Yes, and it's not. The role of council is to form a policy that is broad enough but can be interpreted in a way that ensures the community that we're a part of is inclusive, that we're not causing harm in what we're doing in our environment. But as you've been in the theater business, Tim, for many, many years, characters are created to also reflect society and at times also elicit very challenging feelings. And if we don't allow artists to present pieces of work or a show that elicits that challenge of thought, I do think we're a weaker community for it. So,
dude, is it because I disagree with mostly what he says, or is that a very articulate, well-argued point and well delivered?
No, that is. I hate to admit how biased I am towards Walter Sendzik, that I was shocked by how salient and articulate and well structured, like this argument he put forward, and we heard it earlier too. He mentioned Salman Rushdie, who got knifed in the neck and eye and almost lost his life after a fatwa. And so, in essence, is the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee issuing a fatwa against Jeff Dunham? I mean, maybe not explicitly, but implicitly, and certainly in terms of the ethics. And Sendzik was enough of a liberal and not enough of a communist to actually stand for liberal values. And so I salute that.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was well delivered. Can't argue with it, that's for sure.
Can't argue with it. Real good points. And scroll to the quote tweet, the one the previous tab.
Yeah.
And you'll see the rest of his comments. I think put a fine point on it.
Act like Jeff Dunham, and looking at him looking at and act like Jeff Dunham, and looking at him as an artist. And people would say, well, comedians aren't artists. Well, actually they are, and their art is being performed in a certain way. And you talked about the stereotypes. And so his characters are extreme stereotypes of how people and groups are portrayed in society, and so they become offensive. They, in terms of his stereotypes, become offensive when they're placed into a public space where he elicits laughter based on the discussions that take place between the puppets. So as a council, and again, Tim, it's not for us to decide what is art in that form of, we're not thought police. We can't, as a council, start canceling different pieces of art because we feel that it's an infringement. There has to be something more foundational. And I think that's the hardest part of the discussion, is he's never been charged with a hate crime.
There you go.
That's my point. If it's legal, then you say it and you deal with how it falls out. People judge you accordingly. But the last thing we want to do is drive people underground and censor them. We want the fools to say the foolish things. And you think about how much we self-censor. You know what I mean? Especially, and I wish I could let it loose. And that's why I started a stand-up routine, coming to a theater near you soon.
All right. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the...
Primo's writing a book, and I'm doing a stand-up. Primo's been shouting in the comments section on the Jim Fannin Show page on the fake book. So
nice.
He's sending love. I appreciate the time, man. We got more to hit here, or what? We killed this. Well, it's a great way it's a great positive way, and I can't think of anything that Walter's done in 2 terms of being mayor but this. Like, we got a hashtag, compassionate city, whatever. That didn't work. You know what? He paid for that. And I'm glad to see that.
I am briefly familiar that actually Robin McPherson's, is that true? Her marketing campaign came up with that?
Yeah.
And there was a whole kerfuffle. Visit the Niagara Independent in February for an interesting story.
For sure. They're buds. They go way long.
Potential conflicts of interest there.
Oh, come on.
That's all interesting.
They're friends.
But at the end of the day, in America, it's the First Amendment, isn't it?
Yeah.
More important than being able to stand up against tyranny with the Second Amendment. Most important is the ability, free speech. And when the rubber meet the road and a communist was trying to push back, was trying to take rights away, Sandzik said the right things. But he also is kind of deferential, and I can respect that. And they allow this policy, the guiding principles, to go forward. So in essence, my view, they didn't get the kill, but they did get their venom in the bloodstream. And so it's not over yet. I think that the can will be kicked down the road, and no one will really follow up on this particularly. It's like, oh yeah, we made a guiding policy. Oh yeah. I think what needs to come out of this is the committee chair needs to be fired from the committee. I think that this is an entirely inappropriate use of a committee like that, and it really works against its ostensible purpose. Because whenever we hear from the anti-racists in St. Catharines, we're actually hearing from a communist, like someone who doesn't believe in free speech. So elimination of capitalism, communists, and that's not appropriate. That is not appropriate. So,
amen and hallelujah. God bless you, brother. Yeah, we did a full hour. I got your site up here, niagarabase.com. You can see the headlines pretty clearly. The links are in the show description below. Give a follow, give a like. And how do I pimp your book? You get a separate website for the book? No, comments. Let's click here. Let's check the comics.
The comics are there, and then you click store, and you can find Grant LaFish. If you click store.
That's the new book.
And I'm also coming out with my satirical
is this
comics.
a new one? I haven't seen Christopher Freeland before.
This is a Roddy Heating piece.
Oh, okay.
Roddy Heating is another local
guy.
Artist, and some good work here. And you'll the whole context of her being yelled at. It just seems really absurd what the theatrics that they go through on Twitter and on social media and in the media. A lot of gaslighting.
Oh, you got a lot of Roddy Heating stuff. Okay. How do we get to, where do I go?
Yeah.
Store. Okay.
There you go. And you can find it in the store.
Grant LaFish.
Available
That's
on
the new
Amazon.
One. And where's the other book?
I haven't. It's not available online yet.
Oh, well, I need that one online. That's my.
Yeah, I'm just finishing it up. I got I finished a comic called Ugly Christmas Sweater Party, which I had started last season, but I didn't have time to finish it before Christmas, and so I wanted to get it into my new book. So I'm finishing that up, and then my 2021 anthology satirical comic, 60 pages, will be available also. So there you go. Thanks for your time, Jim.
Yeah, well done.
You know, as I think liberals, as someone being liberal with a lowercase L, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's important for, I'm a fairly conservative-minded person, and I'm definitely in the bifurcated, polarized political world. I'm on the right, but in that, people on this side, on the right, make the very unfortunate statement: liberalism is a mental disorder. That's a very unfortunate statement. That's wrong, because it's not liberalism you're talking about. It's wokeism, it's communism, it's socialism. But liberalism is something worth defending, because that's where you derive free speech. That's where you derive individual rights. That's where you derive the rights of justice, to face your accuser. Those are all liberalist ideas. So this idea that liberalism is a mental disorder, I think, is a very unfortunate right-wing meme that should be thought better of.
No, that's perfect. Because you know why? They've perverted liberalism. Liberalism isn't what it used to be. I will agree that the majority of liberals are not the extreme that the voices that carry across the pond now easily because of social media and other things, but we are platforming the wrong people. They're not good role models, and they don't want for better things. They just want more money. They want more control, more money, and meanwhile, our cities are burning and our kids are dying from opioid overdose, and nobody wants to talk about it.
The reason it's a mistake is because it's an abandonment of liberalism as it ought to be. It's kind of like saying, somebody shit in your soup, and then you say, I don't like soup. No, I don't like soup that has shit in it. I still like soup. I still want soup. I'm still hungry for soup. So you see my metaphor. Like, liberalism has been shit in.
Yes.
You see what I mean? We need to almost cook a new batch. Mm-hmm. We need to cook a new batch of liberalism. Chop up some new liberal carrots.
So the majority of liberals are centrist people that see both sides of the issue, and we can tolerate it. It's just the extremes, right. But I don't see the extremes on the right causing trouble.
We can't give them the territory.
The extremes on the right now.
Don't give the communists the liberal territory.
Yeah.
And so the phrase, that's what I'm saying. You're giving the communists the liberal territory.
Yeah.
Not you, but the anyone who might.
Well, you're giving every fringe ideologically possessed group the voice and the power. Look at who we cater to now in life. The fringe minority, the loudest voices. That's it. Most gay people aren't going to LGBT fighting for anything. They don't care. They don't talk about sex as the first thing they say when you meet them.
Right.
They don't care about that kind of stuff. It's the activism. It's the Black Lives Matter and this whole LGBT business. It's a business. Somebody's making big dough off it. Don't get me started with Soros and all the left-wing judges, and it's disgusting. And so we've had enough. But the problem
leftism, you can call it leftism.
Mm-hmm.
I think just calling it
radical leftism.
Calling it radical socialism, wokeism. I just think it's it would be very unfortunate for people to come to the assumption that people like you or me don't have liberal values when we do. And it's actually the Liberal Party who's abandoned the liberal values, and the communists who become illiberal.
For many elections. All right, show your face before we go.
You want to see me?
This is what I dealt with all night. I was looking at a fucking screen, so that's why, we probably should have had you on there. But anyways, good to see your face. Yeah. I love you, brother. Thanks for doing the work, and leave me the fuck out of it. I've been tweeting about Lori Yip all
This means okay, by the way. I just meant okay. Good job. Good job. Fuck.
Proud boys, baby. P-O-Y-B.
I'm a man.
I'm a proud Christian white man, and I'm going out for some beers, and then I'm going to drunk text some people. No, I'm not doing that. I got to work tomorrow.
Right.
It's good to see your face. Give my love to the family. Thanks for taking the time, and nice job. You always do a nice job keeping the receipts, and you keep me on track most of the time too.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
All right, peace out.
Have a great night.
Talk soon, bro. All right, so that's how you do that. Shandor Legafalvi, everyone. I'm gonna play a little Want Some on the way out, maybe, because maybe you know what, we should just leave this as a freestanding interview, but we could go out with the music. I could go through some clips. Silently, but I don't want to add any more than what I did with Shandor. I don't want to put him on the spot by saying something radical and insane that's going to incite violence and get me landed in jail. The only place I go to jail is if I come home. Who wants to fly to YYZ? It's, you know what? It's 364 days until, oh no. How do I do this joke? It's 364 days more of summer, okay? Fucking sunny and 90 every day. What the fuck? You guys, you got Labor Day this weekend. We don't have holidays because every day's summer. You don't need holidays. Yeah, we have holidays where things are closed and shit like that, but every day is summer. 365. Don't be depressed because the beaches are closed and the water's going to get cold. Winter's coming. I'm sorry. You can buy a little condo down here in Caribe Campo for $60,000 US. Rents for $600-700 a month, maybe more. You could Airbnb it. If you Airbnb it, you make dough. But $60K American. The monthly fees are $130. Hydro. There's no hydro. It's electricity. Tenant pays the hydro bill. You got to have it furnished. Cheap. Cheapy, almost for free. Why are you living in Canada? Anyways, my thanks to Shandor Legafalvi. The links are in the show description below, and I will go off screen, and I'll give you a little Want Some. Matt McPherson is one of the boys that lets me use his music. It's royalty free. It's genius. It took him 2 years to make this song. It's called Want Some, and it's awesome. Good night now.
Good night now.